On the 23rd of August, Yevgeny Prigozhin, the leader of the Russian private military corporation, the Wagner Group, died in a plane crash in Tver Oblast, along with several other Wagner executives. Since then, there has been much speculation about the future of the Wagner Group and what services they would offer going forward, particularly after, on the 19th of July, Prigozhin announced that Wagner fighters would withdraw from Ukraine and should prepare for deployment into Africa. Now, it is Sibylline's assessment that, regardless of Prigozhin's death, Wagner and, by extension, Russia's focus on sub-Saharan Africa is unlikely to change in the short, medium, or long term. Over the coming weeks, we're likely to see personnel changes, perhaps changes to Wagner's structure, or indeed engagement with different Russian private military contractors. But the strategic interests that underpinned Russia and Wagner's presence in sub-Saharan Africa are unlikely to change. So where is Wagner at the moment? Where have they been? Where are they going? And what does their presence mean for security in sub-Saharan Africa? My name is Sutcliffe, and I'm an Associate Analyst on the Middle East and Africa desk here at Sibylline. I'm going to be taking you through a record of Wagner's activities in Africa and areas that we are particularly concerned about in the coming months. The first place that we recorded Wagner activity was in the Central African Republic, where fighters were deployed in 2018 to support the government as it faces a complex and highly unstable security environment. Indeed, Wagner fighters were part of a concerted effort to fend off rebel attacks on the capital, Bangui, following elections in 2021, which triggered an uptick in violence. To date, Wagner maintains a significant presence in the Central African Republic in government-controlled areas. After Wagner's failed mutiny in Russia on the 23rd of June, over 700 Wagner fighters departed CAR, raising concerns that perhaps the government had terminated their contracts. However, by mid-July, Wagner fighters had returned in even greater numbers, preceding a highly contentious referendum which was held on the 30th of July. Now over to Libya, where in the ongoing civil war, Wagner fighters have allegedly supported Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar, leader of the Libyan National Army, which is based in Tobruk. Wagner fighters have allegedly been present since 2018 and, in this capacity, have supported the LNA by using snipers, laying improvised explosive devices, and conducting extrajudicial killings. Heading south to Mali, Wagner forces were first deployed into Mali in September of 2021 at the behest of the military government, which faces an incredibly complex and multifaceted security crisis from both secessionist and jihadist groups, which began in 2012. Thousands of Wagner fighters are present in Mali, and in 2023, the United Nations released a report stating that in 2022, Malian military figures supported by Wagner forces had killed over 500 civilians during a 5-day operation in the town of Mora. More recently, on the 30th of June, the United Nations voted to end its peacekeeping mission in Mali, following requests from the military government to withdraw. During this drawdown of over 15,000 peacekeeping troops, we have seen a conspicuous uptick in jihadist activity, particularly in the Tombouctou, Gao and Munaka regions. It's highly likely that with this increased insecurity, Wagner or another Russian private military company will increase its presence in Mali over the coming months, where Wagner currently operates significant gold, phosphate and lumber concessions. Now to Sudan. While Wagner has allegedly been operating in Sudan since 2017, it has most recently been linked to the Rapid Support Forces, a paramilitary group currently fighting the Sudanese armed forces for control of the country after clashes emerged in April 2023. Wagner has been accused of supplying the RSF with weapons and helicopters through several shell companies and fronts, operating mines in southern Sudan to extract gold and precious minerals, many of which have been sanctioned by Western governments. In a slightly different vein, Wagner also has a presence in Madagascar, where they provide private security for high-value individuals. Wagner forces were first deployed in Madagascar in 2018 to act as bodyguards for the president at the time in exchange for control over Madagascar's national chromite producer. Forces allegedly remain present to this day around the president and continue to guard chromite mines nationwide. So, while we have seen Wagner activity in multiple countries throughout sub-Saharan Africa, the real question now is where are we likely to see additional activity over the coming months? Of primary interest is Burkina Faso, which faces a complex jihadist insurgency with high risks to both civilians and military assets. Insecurity is so widespread that on the 15th of April 2023, the military government announced a general mobilization, and several days later, Russian instructors reportedly arrived in the capital, Ouagadougou, to train soldiers, highlighting Russia's increasing presence in the region. Indeed, on the 1st of September, Russian delegation met with Burkinabe representatives in Ouagadougou and confirmed discussions of security cooperation. These discussions are likely laying the framework for a Wagner deployment over the coming months, elevating risk to individuals still in Burkina Faso. Of additional concern is Niger, a landlocked country in the Sahel, which recently experienced a coup. On the 26th of July 2023, members of the Presidential Guard overthrew democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum and held him hostage in the presidential palace. This attracted widespread condemnation and speculation that a Wagner force would soon be deploying in the country. Niger indeed shares many characteristics with other states that had experienced a Wagner deployment. They are a former French colony with high levels of natural resources that are now under a military government. However, to date, we have not seen any concrete evidence that would suggest that Wagner fighters are in Niger or are planning to deploy imminently. Though there of course have been meetings between Nigerian authorities and Wagner representatives in light of the potential intervention by the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, it is highly unlikely that we will see a Wagner deployment over the coming weeks, but it remains a realistic possibility over the coming months. Now finally to Chad, another area that has often been identified as a potential hotspot for a Wagner deployment. Since August 2023, we have observed a moderate uptick in rebel group activity in Chad under the military-led government of Mahamat Déby. The Popular Front for Recovery, a rebel group, recently called for a national uprising to restore democracy, and the Front for Change and Concord in Chad recently suspended a 2021 ceasefire that it agreed with the military government. Given this increasing activity and Wagner's presence in the neighbouring Central African Republic, there's a realistic possibility of further activity and negotiations over the coming months. Please like and subscribe if you would like to see more of this content, and do check out our podcast, Sibylline Insights, on our channel, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you are interested in more of what we do here at Sibylline, be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, with details in the description below.